Yeah, thank you, Pietro. I think we're ready to slowly start, and if more people want to join in later, I'm sure they can hop on. So yeah, thank you very much for joining today, this first pilot session of the GARN European Hub per Confluence of European Water Bodies Rights of Nature Case Dialogue. And it's such a pleasure seeing so many people that showed interest in joining today's session and for the project itself. So as I shared before, um, we are welcome to use the chat to introduce yourself, your name, your background. I think Peter will also share details in the chat directly, and where you're joining from as well, and kind of what connects you to the rights of nature in the first place. And we can start with short introduction ourselves. My name is Stella, and I'm one of the co-facilitators of the GARN European Hub, together with Pietro Consolandi, Christian Bosman, and Marine Calmet. I also give a short introduction of GARN for those that are less familiar and come from different backgrounds. GARN stands for the Global Alliance for the Rights of Nature, and as the name shows, it's a global network of individual organizations that wants to advance the rights of nature internationally, rooted in indigenous cosmologies. And it just goes beyond the legal recognition of the rights of nature, but for a more systematic change of the way we relate to the earth by decentering the human and centering life. So the way the GARN operates, it was first born in Ecuador in 2010, the first country to have the rights of nature recognized in its constitution. And since then, it operates through an indigenous council, an international rights of nature tribunal, and 8 thematic and regional hubs that do the work locally. So in this case, we're from the GARN European Hub, and as GARN European Hub, we work to take care of different organizations and initiatives and individuals that work for the rights of nature in the region by giving them support, visibility, and connecting them to the other initiatives for a stronger and more united movement in the region. I'll give it to Chris to quickly introduce yourself and the work of the Confluence of European Water Bodies.
Yes, thank you, Stella. I'll keep it really short. My name is Chris. I'm based in Amsterdam. I'm wearing two hats. The first one is as a representative of the Embassy of the North Sea. We aim to represent the North Sea as a legal, cultural, political person. And my second hand hat is one of the co-founders of the Confluence of European Water Bodies, together with many other organizations, among which TBA 21 Academy, and of course the activists from the Mar Menor, because that's where it all started at the shores of the Mar Menor in 2023, when this ecosystem was just granted legal personhood. All completely fascinated by how they managed to achieve this as the first ecosystem. We aim to gather to learn and exchange with other grassroots initiatives from all over Europe, mostly led by artists, but also working interdisciplinary. And so our aim is to learn and exchange about what it means to be water stewards, about rights of nature in Europe, about strategies and methods, and about how artistic research and worldview are related to this paradigm shift from object to subject. So we're now over 35 grassroots initiatives. We gather monthly, we gather online, we gather yearly in multi-day confluences from 2023 Mar Menor to Venice, 2024 the Netherlands last year, and this year we will all gather in Berlin. It's always a wish to take a deep dive in these local specific cases, what's been going on, to learn about these local ecologies and strategies. So I'm super happy that we have the chance now this hour to take a plunge into the Reuss, and also to have this first collaboration launched with the sister GARN. So back to you, Stella.
Yeah, thank you so much, Chris. Exactly as you said, this project, which this today's dialogue is the pilot session, was exactly born from this sisterhood from between the GARN European Hub and the Confluence of European Water Bodies, kind of rooted in the recognition that we're seeing in Europe now more and more initiatives that seek legal recognition and protection for the ecosystems. And they often face very similar questions and challenges. So the objective of this format was kind of to respond to this growing need to connect efforts and experiences and to create a space for shared learning from real rights of nature cases in lived practice and from their different opportunities and strategies, but also at the same time strengthening the connection of the network. So each session, the objective is that each session will focus on a specific case, inviting open dialogue and strategic reflection, collective reflection. And I also wanted to stress again that this is a pilot session. So we also want to make sure that we are creating a participatory and interactive space, and we want to be learning from the different backgrounds and experiences of everybody in the network and try to understand how can we best respond through this format to the different needs and necessities that come from the network, the rights of nature of network itself in Europe. So please, as I said before, but more people joined, feel free to share and use the chat to share any reflections and questions and introduce yourself. Then I think, Marcus, you can start sharing your presentation. Thank you very much. So, as mentioned before, the specific case dialogue that we'll be focusing on today is the Reuss River, which is one of the central river, the most important river of the central part of Switzerland, and specifically the Reuss Initiative, which is a pioneering popular initiative in Switzerland, seeking legal recognition for the Reuss River and all the public waters in the Canton of Luzern. You can go to the next slide. So, as I said, this will be the specific focus of today's session. By drawing on the collective wisdom of our community, we'll have Angelo Breda, part of the committee of the Rect Person of the Reuss River, Marcus Shirley, which is the president of the Rect Person Reuss Association and the Reuss Initiative, and then Jakob Kulula at the end will also share his pilot project, which is called A Voice for the River Reuss. Next slide. Okay, so this is the agenda for today's session. We'll start with Marcus that will share with us the journey from popular initiatives to constitutional change, followed up by Angelo that will share the legal and political implication of the initiatives, and then Jakob, which will share his pilot project, A Voice for the Reuss Spree and All Waters, which will connect both rights of nature to understanding how arts and technology can go together with policy changing and making. And then at the end, for the second part of the session, we'll open it up to the workshop part, which is intended to, as we said at the beginning, to address the aim of this session, which is to draw from the collective wisdom of the European Rights of Nature Network. So we'll make sure to be answering, for this reason, two parts of the questions. So one is the question that Marcus will pose directly to the collective, to the group, which is how can our European Rights of Nature organization support a local...
Ya, y eso es la otra cosa, es que
How can European Rights of Nature organizations support a local initiative? So please do keep this question in mind during the presentation, as in a workshop section, we'll open it up and you'll be able to share your reflection and advices and insights to respond this question directly to the presenters of today's case. And then at the same time, you can also start reflecting on your own questions that you would like to pose to the presenters that will also open up in the workshop section, but you're welcome to start sharing them in the chat during the presentation, and then we'll collect them and the presenters will respond to them in the workshop section. So if everything, I think it's pretty clear. As I said before, please use the chat for any question or reflection that you have during the presentation. But then if there are no other doubts, I can pass it to Marcus to start your presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Stella. I will go through the journey of the Reuss Initiative, the timeline. Just at the beginning, the word initiative can be used in two senses. One, the generic sense, to take initiative, to do something. And here in Switzerland, the word initiative has also a clear defined political meaning. It is the possibility of a certain number of people, that depends on the canton, on the federation, a certain number of people can, if their signature is collected and they reach the respective number, then the population will be able to vote on this. So even if the parliament is against it, the people can vote on this issue. I think that's quite important. And we start with the timeline. We started in April 25. We launched the initiative at the border of the Reuss and started with the collection of the signature. We had 1 year time to collect them. We submitted them to the government with 5,460 signatures. We necessary were 5,000 in the Canton of Luzern. So this is now with the administration. They have 1 year time to create a report to the parliament. And they have to deliver it to the parliament till the 15th of January next year. Then the parliament has to take the decision based on this report. They can decide the same way as the government proposes, or they can do something completely different. They have, in fact, 4 possible decisions they can take. They could say yes. To be honest, I don't remember they ever said yes to an initiative, because if they had this good idea, they would have done it themselves. Mostly they say no, or no with a counter proposal. Counter proposal means they establish a law which goes a bit in the direction of the initiative, but not completely, with the hope that then the people prefer this less far counter proposal against the initiative. The point here is that I can't really see a counter proposal, because or you have the right of nature or you don't have. There is not a little bit of rights. The last thing they could do is declare the initiative invalid, and then we would have to go to the cantonal court. And if this one would decide also that this is not valid, then we would have to go to the federal court. There are examples in Switzerland. The federal court is quite eager to let people vote on issues where signatures has been collected. There has been really a strong mistake in it, and I don't think we have made such a mistake. So if it goes this way, we would win, I think. So as you see, the last step is then in, about 3 years, that then the decision has to be taken by the population. So what do they have to decide on? That's explained by Angelo. And so I hand over to Angelo.
Okay, thank you, Markus. Just so you know a little bit about my background, I work at the University of Luzern. I teach fundamental rights, state law, and my main focus would be the theory of the state and the philosophy of law. And I think my main contribution to the initiative is with regards to the wording of the initiative. And as you can see on this slide, we would like to change the constitution. So the initiative in Switzerland, as Markus already kind of mentioned, in Switzerland, we call this a half direct democracy. So of course, we have Parliament that is there to write all the laws and everything, but we also have the possibility to formulate specific legal texts and then have a vote on those. So this is the text that you see here under Initiative New, the blue line there. This is what would be added as a text into the Constitution of the Canton of Luzern. So there's two parts to it, a very general concept of fundamental rights and legal personality of non-human nature, and then the specific case of the public water bodies. Now you can go to the next slide, please. So on the very general level, you can see here the fundamental rights as they are declared in the cantonal constitution. There's a very basic notion and mentioning of human dignity, and then fundamental rights are guaranteed in accordance with the federal constitution. So basically what the canton says, as you know, we have two federal levels, the cantonal level and then the confederational level in Switzerland. What the Canton of Luzern basically says here is that whatever is in the Swiss constitution as fundamental rights is also fundamental rights granted by the Canton of Luzern. So within this logic, we thought, okay, within this article here, we will have a third paragraph where we just basically state the concept that fundamental rights and legal personality of non-human nature are guaranteed in accordance with the cantonal constitution. So basically this means that there needs to be a specific text that attributes to a specific entity specific rights. So this is also a political consideration. Maybe we can talk a little bit about political implications in the workshop part, but you can go to the next slide. All right, now here, if we go into the specifics, you see this is a whole new article where in the first paragraph, there is the mention of the public water body. So who is granted legal personality? And then the rights pursuant to paragraph 2 are the fundamental rights that shall be granted to this entity. And then in the paragraph 2, you can see we thought of two basic concepts. The first is existence, so they shall have the right to existence. If you think of human rights, this would be more or less your right to live. And then ecological integrity, if you want to compare it to the concept of human rights in Switzerland, this would be protected by your personal freedom, which also protects the integrity of your body and the integrity of your mind and things like this. So, of course, we specifically thought of different words, so there will be no confusion about maybe overlapping concepts and stuff like that, because usually with human rights, it's the courts to decide the exact content of these rights. And we didn't want there to be any mix-ups and any ideas that we want to tell the courts more what to do than just with the basic concept of the human rights. And then the third paragraph, I think this is a very important concept. Let me know in the workshop part if this is too broad what I'm telling you now, but you will have to understand that Switzerland has very, I think, is a very proud democracy in the sense that our democratic institutions, they really try to make a good job, especially when it comes to parliament and having new laws, new regulation. There is a whole process that tries to ensure that all the political parties are on board with new regulation. Also, every single private person can say what they think of a regulation that has to be implemented. And this will all be collected. Also, you can think of maybe the agricultural sector has a big interest. So we wanted to kind of divide the specifics of how exactly, because of course, you know, there's a lot of questions like how do you represent such an entity? How do you even understand its needs? How do you go about this whole idea that is, I think, for most of the people, kind of strange still. Maybe it will change by some time. But at the moment, I think a lot of people are somewhat afraid of the implications of what this might mean. So by having this third paragraph, we ensure that the basic question that we ask is not one of the specific ways how this will work, but is more a question of your, how do you feel about this? Do you feel that public water bodies can be regarded as a subject of law instead of just an object of law? And if you share this common idea, this feeling, this more or less emotional aspect of the question we are trying to ask, then you can say yes to the initiative without risking anything in terms of specifics, because the law, they will have 2 years to write this law. And when they finish the law, there is again the possibility for another popular vote on the law itself. So this is kind of the concept of how we built this initiative. And I think I will leave it at that for the content. And you can go to the next slide. Okay, so this is not a point I want to make, but more like a question I might have to all of you, because I think this is also something that is not very clear for me, because you can think of interests to be protected, and you can think of interests as part of a subject that has rights. And here I just have some example. This is the Federal Act on the Protection of Waters. And as you can see, for example, this law aims to preserve natural habitats of indigenous fauna and flora. It aims to preserve water suitable as a habitat for fish. So maybe if you have experience with this concept and introducing this concept into society, I don't know what exactly is the difference if your interests are only protected or if you actually have rights, because it could be that the world is exactly the same, but just how we talk about it is different. So we will see, maybe we will get to this point, but I think I'll leave it at that for the moment and give over to Jakob.
Now you give over to me. Sorry.
Oh, all right.
Very short, because as I said, we had this the launch of the initiative and the delivering of the signatures. And there we had quite some media helping us to make our initiative to be known. But now, as I said, there are several years until the votation. So we have to keep up interest in our initiative. And one of the ideas we had was to have, on the left side, you see that a voice for the River Reuss as a project. And Jakob had a very similar project already going on for the Spree. And that's why, in fact, as we were developing this project, Jakob came on board and also Christiane. And now that's where Jakob comes in. We wanted to make it even bigger, to have it connected to the Confluence. And now I hand over to Jakob.
Thank you, Marcos. Hello, everyone. Nice to see you all. And yeah, congrats, first of all, to your success that you have already made. I'm really impressed. I'm Jacob. I am having also multiple hats on. One of them is being an artist and designer. And since 6-7 years, I'm working very closely on the River Spree. And I have been part of the Confluence from the beginning on, and happily always joining, not so much organizing it. And this year we are actually inviting to Berlin. So just so you get a bit of the context. And the River's Voice project is also running since a few years already in Berlin. And the idea is to how can we give more agency to water bodies through design and arts. And one of them is here you see, maybe you jump to the next slide, Markus. This is the project where it started. It is from my design study still as a final thesis, still developing and further actually manifesting slowly. It is a buoy that measures water quality, also pumps oxygen into the water body, as the Spree has sometimes issues with that, and then the data is sent to the spreeberlin.de website, and you can see kind of the constitution of the water quality, but also the river tells from its perspective, its stories. And this project really helped always to open different conversations on this topic and really engage the thought on how would a river could be enabled through an art project. And there is many different ways, also different communities that have different ways of enhancing the river's voices. And this year you see is from the development of a buoy that is currently on show at the Humboldt Labor. Whenever you pass by, feel free to join. We also, it kicked off the process of writing a law with a group of lawyers in Berlin on the Spree. And then I got in touch with Markus because we were connected, of course. We are also connected through the Confluence. Maybe you do the next page. And here we were talking a little bit of how could this look like, and I was just working on a video live stream for another artist where we were sending live video from underneath the water. Here you see a fish in the Spree actually checking out the sculpture from the artist. And she made a really nice piece and asked me if I could make that video stream. Parallelly, we created a sound stream that is also a live sound stream for another art project. And since then, we are thinking, how could this be also something for the ROI? So we're looking for funding as well right now. And the idea, maybe next slide, if there's a next slide. The idea now is as well to exactly, this is good, to bring together these different communities and expand as there is also the Confluence networks platform, and bring the pieces all together, and have this website, which currently is hosting the Confluence, become a platform where communities can log in and bring their enhance the voices of their ecosystem through mapping their own stories around their water body, and also where we can share methodologies, things that we learned, practical knowledge, and people can really exchange ideas. So you can imagine a little bit like a social media for a social network for rivers and water bodies. And currently we're looking for funding, and a team is aligned already so that we can make that happen. That would be really exciting. And yes, so let's see where this grows. I hope this was understandable. And yeah, I give over to
Stella.
Stella. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much, Marcus, Angelo, and Jakob, for the beautiful presentation that you put together today and the beautiful work that you've been doing and you keep doing. So, as I mentioned at the beginning, now we can go into the workshop section of today's session. Okay, perfect. Thank you, Marcus. Okay, so as I shared at the beginning, we like to call this workshop section kind of drawing on the collective wisdom of our community, because part of the spirit of this case dialogues is to draw both from the collective knowledge and the experience of the wider network that it's present here today. So we thought that rather than only having a presentation and a traditional Q&A, we also wanted to create this space for exchange, collective reflection, and mutual support. So as shared in the chat and at the beginning, we have a question which the presenters today wanted to pose to the group, and it kind of is a guiding question for the workshop session, which is how can the European Rights of Nature organization support a local initiative? But at the same time, I'm aware that this was a very condensed and very full in presentation. So I'm sure a lot of questions or insights came up. So feel free to to start with those if you feel more called to have these questions, and then at the same time we can see how the workshop and develops and see how we can also answer the specific questions. So yeah, I think I saw some questions coming in from the chat, and I'm also aware that other questions were posed by the presenters during the presentation, and I think Peter was able to summarize them in the chat directly. But if you have any more questions, maybe I'm sure the presenters will be happy to clarify them. And yeah, so I think I'll just leave it quite free for anyone to raise their hands and share their insights or their questions. And then if I'll see questions coming in from the chat, I'll make sure to prioritize them as well. I can see a question in the chat coming from Begonia. She's asking, she's curious to know if we considered advanced in training any relationships with the Klima Signorinen case in relation with the human rights affected as well. I'm not sure if that question is addressed to GARN or to today's presenters.
I think this should be addressed to us. It's a Swiss case
Okay,
of elderly people that made the point that the climate change is actually affecting human rights. So the dimension of like the change of climate is not only just a general political concept, but also directly affecting the notion of human rights. So I don't know, Marcus, if you want to correct me, but I don't think that we have a similar case there to actually work together. But correct me if you feel differently.
No, you are right. We have some support from the climate people, climate organizations. We are also part in an exhibition in Bern, where they have a huge exhibition about climate change, and we, with our initiative, are part of it. So there is a little bit of connection, but I absolutely agree, Angelo, that we don't have such a case like the climate seniors. Yeah.
I see a question from Christiane. Maybe since this is not like a Zoom seminar format, everyone is free to turn on their microphone and speak. So perhaps it becomes more of a conversation. Christiane, would you like to speak your question?
Yeah, no, I was wondering because at Mar Menor there was such a serious and visible and urgent ecocide going on, which would really make people to engage and want to sign up for this legal personhood. And I wonder how is that situation in Reus? How do people what is going on with Reus? How do people engage in this situation?
I have to say that the Reus is not the biggest problem in the canton. We have lakes which are in a much more problematic situation. That's why the initiative, even if it's called Reus Initiative, is about all waters in the Canton of Luzern. But I would say the main problems are like everywhere, on one hand, the agriculture, and on the other hand, the cities where the cleaning infrastructure for the water is not good enough and not big enough, because all this has been built in the 60s, 70s, and in the meantime, we have more or less doubled our population, 50% more, no, not doubled, but 50% more people in Switzerland. And there are much more chemical things getting into the water, and they are not, the infrastructure is not ready to handle this. So to take just an example, if it's raining heavy, about 40 times in the year, all the water from the households goes straight into the Reuss and is not cleaned. So you have people who are ill there. But all this said, this is not enough to create this how should I say, une colère publique, as it's called in French, where you really are angry about the government. And it's a bit a pity, but I think we will only succeed if there happens something like at the Mar Menor with all these dead fish. If you have not a catastrophe, then people normally, they say, problem is not so big to have a change.
Yeah, maybe if I can kind of rephrase the point I tried to raise during the presentation, and also kind of link to the general question that we tried to pose here. You will have to think about this as a political process, right? So our, let's call it a problem, because it's probably going to be a problem, is that realistically, we don't expect the initiative to be accepted in the popular vote, except, like Marcus just said, something extremely like bad happens, and then people will just ride the wave in a way. But if you have experience with this process, that you introduce this concept into law and into a society, when gathering signatures, there were all kinds of interesting ideas what this would imply. Like, for example, one person asked me if they could still swim in the river, like if this would still be allowed. And some other person asked me, okay, can we still produce electricity with it? And what about you know, also duties for a river? If it can have rights, it must have duties, right? So there is a lot of questions that will be raised within this political argumentative discourse that will precede the popular vote. And I am wondering if anybody here has any experience to share on how to maybe phrase this, maybe how to introduce this concept and to make it easily graspable for people, so they kind of can understand. Because I feel like a lot of people would understand it. Like everybody who has a dog or a cat at home, they don't regard their pet as just some object, right? They have a subjective connotation with this dog. They have names, whatever. So the concept is there, but when you raise it in a like political discourse, usually the parties and the agriculture section in particular will heavily go against it and tell everybody why this is not a good idea and why it's very strange and why it's not possible. So as there are other examples where this has been introduced, I would very much appreciate it if you could share some experiences of this process.
I only know with the Ecuador example, when they were initially wanting to have rights of the river, and people were teasing them back, saying, "Well, the monkeys are going to come in and ask for their rights." And the lawyer who was responsible said, "Well, the young children and the babies and the fetuses don't come in, but we have to stand for them. We have to support their rights." So it was brought as a parallel with young children and babies having rights, and that they have to be spoken for, and that they have inherent rights, and the same should be for nature and the river and the elements of nature.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. And we are also telling the people that even theoretical constructs like a trust, for example, which is nothing else than money, has rights. And from this perspective, the point is really, for me, this is really the core to persuade the people, is this colère publique. And that's why, in fact, we have chosen the water, because that's something so important for everybody, that this colère could be there. But yeah, we will see. In the last months, we had nearly every month a little catastrophe. So in the sense that, for example, in 2 lakes, you can't eat the fish anymore because it's too much PFAS, this perpetual plastic things. There was one river with 4,200 times the value, the biological value overdone, which more or less killed everything in this river. So that there is no month where there is not something which is which can create this colère. How do you say colère publique in English?
Collective
somebody-
rage, something like that.
Yeah, somebody
Collective
proposed
anger.
indignation.
Rage
Public-
or anger, yeah.
Yeah, anger also. Yeah.
Public outrage or something like that.
Public outrage, yeah.
I think one of the interesting parts about having local initiatives from a broader perspective, it leads into what you were saying, Angelo, where the philosophical foundations of like fundamental rights versus inherent rights versus legal fiction, these are all topics that the general public, it's kind of hard to grasp. But I have seen, like in the UK, where local groups that are trying to clean up their rivers or get bioregional alliances, they have gotten the townspeople to remind them and have remind them of the experience of their relationship with the ecosystems, so that I think there was some town in the UK where they had to pick in their particular, they had an ecologist there and they could pick an insect or a plant or whatever, and they had to envision what it was like for that being to experience the ecosystem in its current state, and how that impacted also the town and their livelihood and their recreation and their ability. And so I think a lot of this from the different regions, it's the relationship with nature is so outside of people's cognition these days that I think that's the part that maybe the local groups have more of an impact. And I think that's why you're seeing more success. But what I can also say about supporting local initiatives, and I don't know at what stage you're thinking about supporting, but I know in the UK, there are a lot of local groups that want to do something, but they're very overwhelmed in how to even think about getting a gathering. And so I'm wondering if some kind of like loose framework of like steps of how to get people interested or how to have conversations or things like that. Each region's going to have their own language for their council. They're going to have their own laws, constitution, like all of that part can come in later, and maybe you have support network to do that. But even at the initial stage, I think a lot of group people just don't even know where to begin, but they're interested in doing something. And so I'm wondering if maybe support at that level would be helpful, just as an idea.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much, Nicole. And I also read out Anna's insight. Thank you so much for your insight that you put in the chat. So Anna, I think, wanted to answer one of the questions that Angelo posed during the presentation connected to legal personhood. And she says, so I have only theoretical knowledge from my thesis research, but there are different rights of nature models. You have, for example, the nature rights model and the legal personhood model. A big difference there is that the nature rights model, for example, Ecuador, is more reactive, whereas the legal personhood model, for example, Mar Menor, is proactive. If you propose rights for a natural entity, it depends on what governance framework you want to achieve, as well since this also impacts who is involved and how you can promote the rights of an entity. If you're interested in this theoretical approach, I can elaborate or share sources. So I don't know, Angelo, since I think this was trying to answer your question, I don't know how it resonates with you, and if you, Anna, you would like to share anything else about, your insight.
Yeah, so thank you very much for this. I think we will have to also thank you, Nicole, for your what you said there. And maybe Jakob, we can talk sometime, because I have some idea, because there is the river. Next to the river there is kind of a little wood where people go for walks all the time. And I had an idea that maybe we could install some kind of public discourse there via QR codes that are lasered into degradable woods that would kind of open up discussions in a very low level kind of way. And maybe, Jakob, this is something that you have already some experience with, and could maybe share some insights and help maybe even produce something like this. And I think also the other question will be that we will have to answer questions on completely different levels. So for some people, the concept of human rights is not one they're familiar with. So we have to explain on a very basic level what it means to be a legal person and what it means to have rights or to not have rights, versus just being, protected by law, like animals at a farm, let's say. And then there is also, of course, legal dogmatic concepts like the one Anna just kind of explained a little bit, that there is different kinds of agency, and it depends on what concept you want to kind of pursue to reach what goals. So I think maybe we could have some way where we can, I don't know, Marcus, if you have any platform where people could share, or if they should just contact the Verein Rechtsperson Reuss if they want to share their insights or share, help or whatever. So we can kind of take this to the next step and actually make use of people who are willing to participate in some way.
Yeah, I think the easiest thing is email, because we don't have a kind of a platform. There is a contact form on the association, but or my email, you can use this one, and yeah, that would be great to have ideas. I told when preparing to Stella that, for example, one idea I got from the Confluence was, I can't remember the river, but they had an initiative and wanted to have more support from other waters. And so we had to send in, or were asked to send in, a 1-minute video they shared then locally, where the other rivers supported this initiative. And that's something I could imagine, probably not at the moment now, but when people are before the votation or the referendum are looking after information, that what initiatives always have is a page on the website where people who are well known are supporting the initiative. And it would be great to have, for example, one page where we have some clips from around Europe where other rivers are supporting the Reuss for this initiative, because people like short videos, and for us it would be impossible to do something like that because we would have to travel in whole Europe. But if people would send us such a video, that would be great, or a photo with a sentence, so that we have a support page on our website from other rivers. So, and I expected a little bit such ideas. They don't have to come today, but probably someone has an idea in the next few days and could come along by email. That would be great.
You know, it just occurred to me as an idea that the idea of the value of nature and the livingness of nature, it used to be the fundamental spiritual practice or way of living of all people. It's, I mean, you can say Celtic or you can go to any, but people understood they had to respect the natural environment in order to be in integrity and in order to be alive on the earth. It, like, they recognized that it had a reciprocity to their livingness. And you go to any of the indigenous people, I mean, even like the Aboriginal people, they respected, okay, certain animals, you have to not take too much of those animals, or any of the indigenous people. You can't kill too many. You can't exploit the environment in a way that goes against the balance of the ecosystem that you're immersed in. And it was made into a way of living. It was the natural sense of respect. And how far we've gone from that is a really it's I mean, and we know this, it's become a resource rather than a reciprocity. But I was just reflecting on that indigenous, the sense of the animism, that it isn't a living relationship between the ecosystem and the humans, and that we have to really go back to, or forward to, that understanding of the reciprocity of the living system.
Yeah, I think this is very fundamental. I mean, subjectivity is not something that is there out in the world, it's something we ascribe, right? So I think this is maybe it followed from industrialization or whatever it was, that we lost contact with the, essentially what we are. But this is the fact. I mean, when I talk to people, friends of mine, they kind of look at me weird when I tell them that I'm, part of this initiative, and they're like, so, but you're not really serious, are you? Like, so I think there is still, like, for a lot of people, the gap, they would have to to kind of leap over to get back to this understanding of reciprocity, although you can tell them that, look, you are what you eat. The molecules of your body is like, this is you're part of the earth. There is no separation. The separation is a construct, right? We can also construct the commonness of nature and us, and not the differences. But still, it seems to me that a lot of people, for them, it's very clear that there is subjects, and that's us, and there's objects, and that's the world. And I don't know if anybody had ever had a conversation with somebody and actually managed to convince them differently, because I certainly haven't yet.
We are in time.
Yeah. Well, we were considering, like, the conversation is definitely flowing. We were thinking to keep this event to 1 hour, but of course, if it's 1 hour and 10 minutes, it's no problem. Maybe since there is Dobra here, who is a part of the Odra River, uh, I think the conversation is revolving a little bit around how to make people care about the ecosystems, and through that also helping them seeing ecosystems as living persons. Like, why should a trust have a legal personhood and not an ecosystem? I think that's a fairly immediate way to get people on board, but some people have strong resistance against that. Some people do believe that trust have more legitimacy to have legal personhood than rivers, but in the case of the Odra, I think it also was a case of ecocide, right? That made people really angry about it. In the case of Venice, thankfully, like, I come from the citizen movement for the rights of the Venice Lagoon, and luckily we didn't have in recent years like a massive death of the ecosystem. But I think that scandals also work very well. In Venice, we had like the mayor trying to sell a piece of the lagoon to an entrepreneur, using the town hall itself as a mediator. So that was a moment in which, of course, there were like legal persons trying to take decision on something that doesn't have a legal personhood, and this has worked quite well. From the side of the citizen movement for the rights of nature, to argue that there should be like a mechanism for local people and the lagoon itself to protect itself. But yeah, sorry, I came late with this reflection. I don't know if anyone has a response to that.
Hello. So I would like to add something, because I come from the Odra River initiative. And so we are using now the legal personhood framework, because Odra River in 2022 suffered from the large ecocide. Yeah. And so we are using this as a tool, and to convince people, because we had to put this citizens initiative into the parliament, we had to collect 100,000 signatures. That's a lot. So we try to explain that it's a tool, it's a kind of umbrella for the whole river, to protect that river. And this is why we are, and to be in the parliament right now, and to convince parliamentarians to vote for this this initiative, this bill. It's proceeding in the parliament. The arguments of our lawyers are that it's a legal tool, it's something new. And as we have for the several ecosystems, we have different tools. that for such big ecosystem, so diverse like river, legal personhood is something that could be excellent in this particular case. So we are in our initiative, we have like two parts, two like system. One is the Osaba Odra Foundation. So we are in with this letter of law, this is a tool, and we have the Odra tribe, and Odra tribe is much more for the subjectivity of life itself, like for the nature itself. So it's like to understand that we are as an initiative, we have these two flows. One is to convince people why it has to work, what is good for Odra River to be protected, but by using this particular tool as a legal personhood. And the other one is that we believe that we are part of nature, we are nature itself, that we are for subjectivity of nature. So I hope you understand what we are, what the kind of situation we are in now, right now, that we are in the parliament, and we have to convince all the parliamentarians to vote for this kind of tool, like legal personhood for Odra. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much for sharing this. I think this is a very good approach that we could elaborate maybe more, Marcus, sometime later this year.
Yeah, I see Robert wanted to share, and then Begonia raised her hand too. So maybe Robert, you can begin.
Yes, thank you. I'm very new in this idea. I'm a friend of Marcus, and I heard about the Royce initiative, and I thought it very interesting. So I'm on it to see what happened, what people think about. I see two problems to activate people. One is a problem of our brain. I don't know the English name for the basic part of our brain. It's the oldest part, and there are personal dangers located. If someone with a knife comes on you, that's a real problem, and we are reacting on it. The warming of the earth is not a direct problem. It's an abstract problem, and people feel not affected by this. They need to have a to act. Or a second one is one of you told about Venice, and similar at the Lake of Constance, there was a problem. Lake of Constance 10, 15 years ago was nearly dead. And the big problem is the city of Stuttgart taking nearly all of their water from the Lake of Constance. That was a really big problem. They became bad water. So there was invested millions of euros and Schweizer Franken and from Austria, and they built systems to clean the Lake of Constance, and the problem is nearly solved. So there are for me these two parts. They have a big problem for many of people, and there must be a personal danger, so that people react.
Hopefully, we don't have to get there all the
Yeah,
time for people to react.
I completely agree, Robert. But that's a bit the problem. We can't make the problem bigger than it is already, just to have the people vote yes. I think if we would be other people, we know some of them in the world, they don't hesitate to create a big disaster just to reach their goals, but that's probably not our strategy. But I completely agree that if the people don't see a danger or have this anger, it will be very, very difficult to change that.
I see Begonia with your hand up. Do you want to share?
Yes, thank you. I would like to ask to the initiatives and cases that are more developed, if you are using the World Health Organization One Health issue, because in that issue it's in relation the health rights not only for humans, but also for non-humans, and also for the ecosystems that we are all part of. So I would like to know if you are using it and in which level. Thank you.
Yeah, probably question for me. No, we are not in contact, but I didn't know that. So yeah, that could be something we could try. If I understood correctly, that we could go to the health organization from the UNO. Thank you for that.
Okay. I guess we are going a bit over time, so we were happy to keep the conversation going. But yeah, if you feel like you got satisfied with the insights for today, and I think we can also start closing, but I'll do it slowly to see if someone else wants to share before we close for tonight. Oh, we're good.
Along with One Health, there's the Planetary Health Initiative is another resource as a community.
Yeah, thank you so much, Carla, for that. Yeah, I hope all of this was a space that was useful for, well, the specific case that we had today with Marcus and Angelo, but in general for all of you that were present here today. Okay, Marcus, you're sharing the screen. Okay. Yeah, thank you for your ideas and your support. But really, thank you so much for being present here today and creating this space of shared knowledge and wisdom and experience from everybody's different background. And I hope it was useful and practical advice, both for Marcus and Angelo and Jakob as well, but also for everybody else that joined and was present here today, both if they're already involved in rights of nature, have their own initiatives, or they just wanted to learn more and learning about this concept and movement for the first time. And yeah, thank you very, very much for being here today and sharing your ideas. And yes, so what we wanted to also mention, as we said at the beginning, is that this is the first session of a pilot project, and as GARN and Confluence, so as European organization, what our objective is to create these spaces for really address your needs, the needs of the community, the grassroots organizations, to understand how best we can advance the rights of nature work and movement in the region. So really see this as being a format that you can shape yourself. So we're more than happy to understand in which way we can change this. This workshop session was also a pilot. So please, we'll be sharing a form, a feedback form right after this by email, together with the registration of today's session. So we'll be able to understand in which way we want to progress. As Pietro shared before, the aim is to have this kind of dialogues every 3 months. So in the next months, we'll decide which one will be focusing the next time, and the workshop kind of what will be the concept of the workshop. But yes, in the meantime, please do feel free to share your feedback, or your needs, or what you feel would be most useful for European organization, rights of nature organization like us, to do to support best the grassroots rights of nature network, and create stronger connections. And as the theme of this session was to kind of get benefit from the wisdom, the shared wisdom, and very diverse wisdom of the whole network. So if you don't have any direct questions now that you wanted to address, I think we can close this session for today. Thank you very much to everyone that shared, and specifically to Pietro for taking part of the technical part, and Chris, and Marcus, Angelo, and Jakob that already left us, but his insight was also amazing. And to everybody that was present and also shared their ideas and insights and advices for to the presenters today. Thank you very much, and have a very wonderful and beautiful night. And we'll keep in touch through the different channels in the next days and weeks.
And thank you to the Royce as well.
Thank you, Royce. Thank you all.
Thank you, Stella.
Thank you, Stella.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Thank you very much.
Bye-bye,
Thanks, everybody.
everybody.
Have a nice
Bye.
evening.